It's like, I'm going to join HBO. I'm going to pay $5 extra per month and watch as many HBO movies. Now we have the Netflix model. You join Netflix for $8 a month. You watch as much as you want once you're in Netflix. Here we have the library example where it used to be that you could go to the library and get a DVD and check out a piece of plastic. Somebody else couldn't have that piece of plastic while you had it, but anybody could walk up and get it. And then we used to have this thing, you guys probably don't even remember this, because it's almost over, broadcast TV, where it just came into everybody's homes for free, and it was non-rival. That my use of watching TV didn't interrupt your use, and anybody with a TV could watch it. Sort of interesting. TV has a whole bunch of interesting ways that it's changing right now in front of our eyes. It used to be that broadcast TV, then broadcast TV was changed with cables. Cables introduced excludability. People could turn on and off your cable, on and off your ability to be excluded from watching something. Now we're moving more and more to wireless frequency. We can watch movies on our telephones or on our iPad or whatever the device is. We have the issue that the wireless spectrum itself is owned by us, the people. We are the people that own the wireless frequency, but we auction it to corporations and let them provide different slices of it. And so what do we do about, do we have some, we've taken what was broadcast TV and reallocated a whole bunch of that spectrum to private companies. Do we need to think about how we're going to keep public access or not? And then basically we have this question, people are moving to the internet, we don't need TV anymore, so we can do away with the broadcast spectrum, but we more and more need this wireless spectrum. So we're like reallocating in our society what we're doing with these public good from one thing to another. So, and it's really important in all these cases that the actual real world is fuzzy. I can draw 4 boxes and we'll try and fit everything into 4 boxes, but as we've already come up with, there's a whole bunch of different examples of how things are partially rivalrous or partially excludable. If you're under 21, your relationship to those illegal things is different than when you're over 21. Here my examples are free cone day at Ben & Jerry's. It's not excludable. Anybody can go to Ben & Jerry's on that day and get a free ice cream cone, but if you go, the line is like all the way around the block. So, and your place in line will make the next person behind you wait a lot longer. There's also free concerts. There's, a big one in the fall, Hardly Strictly, where hundreds of thousands of people go. So it's not excludable. It's a public good, but you have to, they're rationed, or you have to get in a line, or you have to wait in a huge crowd. So there's different aspects of rivalry that come into effect with public goods. And then there's goods that are partially excludable. You go to the beach in California, and everyone has free access to the beach in California, but you have to pay $6 to park there to the state parks. So our state provides an incredibly amount of pristine beaches all up and down the coast, but we charge you to park in the parking lot of the beach. Some people just park on the road and walk down to the beach. Some people say, I'm willing to pay. We have free libraries. Berkeley has a great library system, but you have to be a resident of the city of Berkeley to access the library. UC Berkeley, amazing library system for the people that work and study at UC Berkeley. So we introduce excludability, and then within that, we have some public free goods within that. I want to anticipate the end of class and start the attendance sheet around so that we don't have to queue up when it's after. It has your name on there, so just say that you're here. Okay, so this is a big one. I need to speed up a little bit. Ownership and property rights are really important to talking about whether we provide goods. If you don't own something clearly with clear property rights, you can't sell it. So fisheries are this example of the open access good. A standard one in the literature is grazing on public lands, grazing on the town commons. So if you don't have clear property rights over a good, you can't buy and sell that good. You can't manage it in a way like a private good. If you don't have clear property rights, you also may not build a house on that land, improve that land. If the government can come in and take that land, that's going to change the value of an investment you made on the land. You can't put a mortgage on land because that's a contract about the future ownership of land. So in natural resource management, there's this issue of common property. So the economists say, in general, common property leads to inefficient outcomes. Certainly, sociologists and anthropologists can give us lots of different examples of when there's common property and traditional communities have non-economics or traditional ways of managing resources. People are able to manage who has how many sheep or who catches how many fish in traditional ways. A lot of times it's industrialization. It's when people come with new ways of producing or new ways of fishing with bigger boats, or industrialization changes the relationship to grazing, and so there's an industrial market for the outcome that sort of disrupts traditional management. Here's something I know about lobster fishery in Maine. So before government intervention, the communities maintained their territories and who could fish in which areas. This is an inland fishery, but it's basically open access, but the communities between themselves managed who could access the fishing resource. But now the state creates property rights. You have to have a license for every trap that you have out there. You have to have a license to fish and which fish you can keep. So the state has created a whole bunch of property rights to make sort of like a legal framework for managing a fishery. Another one is government intervention in property rights. This is kind of a crazy story, but a huge oil company in Russia fell afoul of Vladimir Putin. Yukos oil was expropriated and made part of the national oil company, folded in with the state oil companies. Mikhail Khodorkovsky's been in jail. He was a billionaire. He's been in jail. He got released from jail just a month ago because the Olympics are coming up. But from one day to the next, they levied $28 billion in taxes, which was more than the revenue, so they sort of took over this company. So then you have this question of who's going to invest in Russia? Who's going to go to Russia and expand oil capacity? Only people in Russia who are in the fix with Putin. With this sort of looming over your head, this is a different view of what property rights are. You get along with Putin, you have property rights. You don't get along with Putin, you lose your property rights. A big one in international development, which is I'm familiar with, there's a lot of different work on land tenure. In Ethiopia, the government can redistribute land at any time a lot of times to poorer farmers. They have a long tradition of doing this, so getting bigger, more efficient farms doesn't happen. In Zimbabwe, under Mugabe, a lot of farms were taken away from efficient surplus producing farmers, given to the friends of Mugabe, much less production. Zimbabwe used to produce a surplus of corn and feed the region. Now it produces in a deficit and imports food. Very important in India, this issue of informal settlements in slums. People in slums are building their houses, but they cannot actually own title to their homes in a lot of cases. These sort of informal contracts over informal lands, but not legal contracts in front of the city. So that really changes when you go to slums in India and there's big concrete buildings there. It's not cardboard shacks, but over time when you need to put out streets and make it into officially part of your city, how do you extend land rights? Land tenure in general is very hard to draw lines, determine, give people title to land. And this is one of the things that makes it very expensive for poor people to borrow. One of the main ways that we borrow and loan money is based on a mortgage, using your home or your assets for loans. It makes it very hard for poor people to have to pay much higher interest rates. Here in the western US, we have very strange water rights over agriculture. Appropriative water rights are the first person who uses the water from the river, the first person to benefit and do something with that water has the right to it. So that was the way things worked when it was wide open land and people were just coming and settling and planting the first trees and planting the first agriculture. But water now is worth $1 per cubic. This is going to go crazy this year, but water is worth $1 per cubic meter for cities in California, and it's worth 10 cents per cubic meter for agriculture because the agriculture was there first and created that water rights. So what we need now is to figure out how to create some sort of markets. That's a big difference, a 10 times difference. So how do we create markets for water so that price goes up for water, for cotton, for alfalfa, things that, when people in cities need water. And they're out there where the water conveyance is. How do we get the water into the cities? If you're going to create a market, you have to have a way for people to trade the actual physical thing, not just to make trades on the price. Big term here, externality. We're going to talk through this a lot. An externality, a non-pecuniary, the pecuniary is a funny word meaning like money, financial, non-pecuniary effect of a transaction that's borne by someone other than the buyer and sellers. So a pecuniary transaction, the buyer and the seller exchange money. You buy gas, you give money to the gas station gets money selling you the gas. Prices change with that transaction. The non-pecuniary effect is that when you use that gas, you cause local air pollution, you cause carbon emissions. There's no price on that. Price doesn't change when you use the gas and you create that pollution. The clean air services that you use aren't priced. The environmental services of receiving your pollution don't have a price. The gasoline has the price. So you have some externalities from using the gas that don't have a price on them. So coal electricity, we talk about a ton in this class. The top source of electricity in the United States, up to 40% of the electricity in the United States. It's lower here in California, but it's still significant. The buyer and the seller are happy. The coal plant buys the coal, sells you the electricity. You buy the electricity, you're happy. The pollution from the coal plant goes downwind, creates pollution in the next state over, or disperses globally, and we have carbon emissions getting higher, and we have global climate change. So pollution is an externality from coal electricity, but people are paying their, we have a share of coal electricity that here comes from Arizona, big coal plant in Arizona. We're happy to have the electricity. We're not pricing in the downwind externality of pollution. The wolves were creating an externality. The wolves were in the national park. The managers were managing them in the national park. They were eating the sheep outside of the national park. There was an externality to the ranchers of having wolves that they were asked to bear. We want to have wolves in our national park because we like biodiversity. You're going to have to put up with losing some sheep occasionally. So the fund that I talked about before was created to address this externality that's being imposed on the ranchers. Line up your sheep and get a payment, a side payment about pricing an externality that didn't have a market price. So public goods, another form of market failure that we talk about a lot. We said they're the bottom right corner. They're non-rival. We can all use them, not to diminish the use of the other person, and they're not excludable. If we have a free market solution, we don't get enough public goods. They'll be underprovided. The market solutions that we have are for providing those private goods. So a lot of times, environmental economics, public policy, how do we provide the right amount of public goods? How do we decide how much money to spend on them, what quantity to create of them? So there's an example in the textbook. The example is basically about a rose. There's a duplex, and there's a rose garden. And here's just the supply and the demand. The gardener wants $20 to prune the rose and create the rose garden. Each neighbor is only willing to pay $10. Neither of them is willing to pay $20. They can't exclude each other because it's a shared yard, and they both will enjoy the roses just the same amount. So let's say we have one unit. Let's do this with supply and demand here, which isn't in the book, but just to illustrate. So here we have a supply curve for $20. The gardener is willing to prune the roses and create this rose amenity. If it was up to each individual person, they would only be willing to pay $10 to get one unit of rose garden. What's important here is that when we have a public good, we do vertical summation instead of a horizontal summation. So if we have two neighbors and they are each willing to put $2 in, they're willing to together put $20 in. So here's the demand curve for one neighbor, and here's the demand curve for two neighbors. And just let me show you really quickly that if we were with private goods, we would be summing them horizontally. So if each rose garden was for each person individually, the demand curve for two people would be down here. We would be summing like this because we would need two units. But with a public good where it's not going to be rival, they're not going to affect the other person's consumption of it. We only need this first unit of the good. So we're going to sum vertically. The willingness to pay, the price they're willing to pay for the first unit, we're going to sum vertically. So if there was a triplex and there was three people, they're combined, there would be $30 combined that they would be willing to pay amongst the three of them. Whereas if it was a rival good, they would be out here. Three people would be demanding 3 units. So vertical summation in a demand curve. Vertical addition, the vertical summation in building a demand curve. Seats in the class. So we talked about this a little bit before. It's a semi-public good. Seats in the class are rival. Another person can't sit in your seat, but there should be enough seats in the class. Seats in the class are excludable. We can let you into the class or not. There's a waiting list, but hopefully everybody from the waiting list is going to get in. The learning in the class, education in the class, it's both non-rival and non-excludable. Information, it's not rival. Everybody can learn the same information. The information isn't excludable. Anybody who's here could learn it. So, and from the class, the webcast is put on YouTube. Anybody can get to it. It's not excludable. But anything I put, the homeworks, the problem sets, any other materials, the lecture notes that I'll put up in PDF, those are excludable. Only people in the class will get those materials. So we had public university was sort of a blend of public and private excludable access. We talked about television a little bit already. The old model of broadcast TV, you paid for broadcast TV by watching advertisements. Super Bowl, we can think about how many ads we watch and how we pay for the spectacle by watching the ads. Public TV, you make a donation. You join public TV. In England, there's what's called the BBC tax. There's a separate tax that you pay for TV. Cable TV is a club good. You pay to join cable TV. They can turn your TV on or off. This was I wrote during the playoffs last year. The A's were only on cable TV, so it was annoying to me that I couldn't get to watch the playoffs. National parks. So this is the main public good. We'll talk about this. We'll talk about Yellowstone. Anybody can go to Yellowstone. Anybody can go to Yosemite, and each person can enjoy it without diminishing somebody else's use. Interesting, in this country, you go to national parks, at least half of the people seem to be from other countries who are flying to our countries to go to our national parks, which we're providing as public goods. It's probably a good thing, but it's interesting. We're providing public good globally in a sense as well. There are rivalry aspects. Only so many people can climb Half Dome. Only so many people can fit in the campground. Only so many people get background access, and we have different ways that we provide those. We have rationing. We have wait times. You can book a campsite in Yosemite now, but very hard to do that in July. And then we have environmental effects. Too many people going in there, the air quality will suffer. It will change us viewing the amenities. A big one that's traditionally been in Econ 1 textbooks that says the public good is national defense, where the idea is everyone benefits. And I really feel like it's time to take that example out of the Econ 1 textbook because it's clear in the last couple of wars that some people benefit a lot more than other people do. And in general, maybe nobody's really benefiting anymore. Originally, they said we were going to have these wars so that we would have better supply of gasoline at cheaper prices. But ever since the war started, the price of gasoline and sort of the reliability of supply has gone up and up and up. And then we have nuclear weapons where they said our nuclear weapons are going to protect us. It's worth it for everyone. Certainly, we've spent billions and billions and billions of dollars on nuclear weapons that could have been done for something else. Quite questionable whether this national defense as a public good is worth it. And then valuing the future, we'll talk about this at the end. This is another cause of public good failure, though. Market failure, we can't figure out how to provide public goods because we don't know how to weigh the future. Which interest rate or discount rate is used? And how do we make decisions about what the future will want? So I'm running out of time, but I just want to go through 2 more examples. The bison. So in 1889, when the American frontier, the bison were the full amount here. In 1870, they were the smaller amount, and they were basically exterminated. This is a pile of bison skulls. So it was the policy, let's kill all the bison so we can have this rangeland to put our cattle and to put our corn farms on. There's a picture on the top, people on the train, they're just shooting at the bison indiscriminately as fun. They're not even doing anything with it. So the policy at the time was, let's get rid of the bison. But now we would like to have some of that prairie. We would like to have some of that free-ranging bison. But at the time that they make that decision in the 19th century, they were like, future generations are just going to want this land to be cleared. Now we are the future generations. We wish that maybe that hadn't happened. Here's another one, Hetch Hetchy. It's supposed to be just as beautiful as Yosemite Valley, but it was dammed by the city of San Francisco to make the water supply for the city of San Francisco. So at the time, it was a natural wonder that John Muir said it was equal to Yosemite Valley. Now San Francisco has put it on the ballot whether the city of San Francisco should give up Hetch Hetchy and give up the dam and restore it to being natural. I'm out of time, so I think we're going to just finish up here. Can somebody bring the attendance sheet down here so people can sign it on the way out?